So we did end up going to a sort of a contest committee at the Republican National Convention. At that point, this committee called our state party inept and troubled because of the process that happened. Basically, our state party interfered in the grassroots effort within the state to have a voice. And no delegates were seated. They didn't see a list of delegates that the state party tried to put forth. They didn't see the list of delegates that Ron Paul supporters tried to put forth from another convention that was hosted. So no one was seated. So basically it came down because I'm not sure the exact rule in the Republican National Committee. They are allowed, due to the timing, to seat delegates as they choose from a certain delegation. So they chose to seat certain delegates from this list, a majority of the delegates. And what they did take into account was were those two elections that were completed in the April 26th convention, Congressional District 1 and Congressional District 3, from which I was elected in. They actually took those and allowed us to be seated. And that made me, I was kind of happy about that, because those were, nominations took place, legally, elections took place legally, and those elections were not noticed at the convention by the chairman, but noticed by a large majority of the delegates of the convention. People were congratulating me, shaking my hand. Yeah. Congratulations for going to the national convention. So I was kind of happy that they did take those two elections that were legally done in the April 26th convention before it was abruptly shut down.
Okay. But it seems that the McCain organization had enough influence to get the list named by the party leadership also. Is that right, in addition to your?
Yeah, the majority of the delegates that ended up getting seated, I'm not even sure if the proper word is seated, but allowed to participate in the convention, were a large majority of the state-appointed delegates.
And those delegates were never elected at the convention as state law requires, but they were essentially named by the party leadership.
Yeah, they were appointed by party leadership except for 6 delegates from those 2 elections on April 26th.
Okay. Now, when you got to you arrived on Sunday, I think August 31st, and then you went to get your credentials and everything, and there you got to see our good friend Sue Loudon. Could you tell us about that?
Well, it was, like I said before, I was excited that I got selected. I'm not going to say seated because I'm not even sure what to call it.
That's a proper term, I think.
I was selected to participate in a national convention. I was awful excited about it. Myself and a couple friends, we went to get our credentials. We met at the Delegation Hotel. At that point, I had not been contacted by anyone from the state party. I kind of heard it through word of mouth of where I needed to go to get my credentials. I'm not even sure who told me, but I believe it might have been one of the Terhunes, or I believe it was one of the Terhunes, told me actually where to get my credentials. So I showed up, we got our credentials. When we were there, we saw the state chairwoman, Sue Loudon. I said hello to her. She's kind of cordial. It was kind of an awkward situation because we had been going through sort of a battle here over the past couple months over who's going to be a seated national delegate, and it was kind of at a precipice there where we're here now. I'm seated, other people are seated, so it was it wasn't any animosity at that point. So we got credentialed. We got a few pieces of information, like where people were meeting up later. There was going to be a dinner and a lunch the next day type of thing. And then we went on our way. We didn't actually stay at the Delegation Hotel. We were never given any information about how to actually get a room at the Delegation's Hotel. So we kind of took care of the business on our side and had a hotel about 20 miles away.
Okay. And the Monday of the convention, the day it started, everything went smoothly then?
Pretty smoothly. We got in. Security was tight around the entire convention itself. It kind of reminded me of Baghdad, Green Zone, that you hear reporters talk about. Different levels of security in. But it was fairly quick, fairly good operation being run there. We got in. What was kind of weird when we first started to notice some animosity between the other delegates in our delegation of Nevada was that there was assigned seats given to us. And we kind of we're like, assigned seats, okay? We kind of took it at arm's length at first, like, oh, okay. And then we got down to the floor of the convention, and we noticed no other people really had assigned seats or names written on their seats, and we were kind of like, what's going on here? And what we noticed is that there were 3 basically Ron Paul delegates that made it to the floor at that point. There was supposed to be a 4th, but through some other things, that person couldn't come, so we didn't get another Ron Paul delegate at that point seated. So we had 3 of us on the floor. We were each seated in a different row in the middle of sort of the pack, so we didn't really have flexibility to move freely, do anything. We're kind of caged animals. As I learned later, that's what we were supposed to be treated as. From some of our other people in the delegation later that week told us that we were to be treated like caged animals. So it started all come back together to us how we were treated throughout the week as we learned more information later in the week of how we were treated.
And Tuesday you began to notice that there was a few things that were sort of unusual, right?
Yeah, Tuesday it became pretty obvious that we were being followed. We had recognized a lot of security in the aisle, which we thought was normal next to the Nevada delegation. You had a couple, and they had like color-coded security. They had like different color hats. I believe they had like black hats and red hats and a couple other kind of hats and earpieces. Normal security, no big deal. But we noticed when we actually left, we were actually going to leave the convention at that point. We had some other things we wanted to do that evening. So we were going looking for our friends who were sitting in sort of the visitors alternate delegate section. As we were leaving, Chris Dyer said to me, his face looks kind of familiar, doesn't it? So I took a look at it, and it was, I recognized him. We were like, are we being followed? Or, what's this about? So we tested the waters at that point on Tuesday. I said, let's split up. I'll go this way, you go that way. So he stood still, I took off the other way. We noticed the guy kind of hugged the wall, kind of looked, and then he went to his CB, or his radio, kind of whispered in. I watched him whisper. And I went to the concession stand, just sort of waited there for a while, ordered a drink. And then as I came back, I kind of snuck around the pole just to see where this guy was at. And I saw him talking to another guy. And I came to the pole, and I was so close. I got so close to him, I heard him say, "There he is," to the guy that he was talking to. I said, "Hello, hi, my name's Carl Bunce. Nice to meet you." I shook the guy's hand, and the guy kind of freaked out. And then I went back to Chris, who was about 30 yards down the hallway, and these 2 guys proceeded to follow me. I kind of waved at him, kind of smiled. I was like, "This is hilarious." I'm like, why are we targeted for security at that point? We had done nothing, said nothing, done nothing awkward at that point in the National Convention, but we were obviously targeted for some reason.
Okay, and you were followed inside the convention area. Do you think you were followed outside in the town any at all?
It's hard to tell. Around the convention area was kind of, like I said, the green zone type of thing. It had like 10-foot iron gates all around it. Within that zone, it was obvious we were being followed the entire time. Outside in the delegation hotel, things like that, I can't say 100% positive that we were followed at that point.
Or what is it?
Well, early on, it was kind of cordial. The first day, getting the credential, things like that. As time went on, as we got closer and closer to what I'm going to call sort of the coronation of John McCain, the vote, and then the coronation of him, it kind of got a little more tension because no one talked to us.